Sarah, hold on, I'm coming.
The phone vibrated once on the nightstand. Not loud. Not urgent. Just enough to wake a man who had trained himself to sleep lightly. Even after the war, even after the divorce, even after learning how to live without hope. When he answered, the voice on the other end did not ask how he was. It did not apologize for the hour. It said, "She is in surgery. Complications, you are listed as her last. Emergency contact for a moment." Time stopped moving. 2 years earlier, he had signed the papers with a pen that shook in his hand. 2 years since he walked out of the courthouse alone. 2 years since he promised himself he would never look back, and now in the dark. With the faint glow of a digital clock reading 2:07 a.m., the past had reached through the silence and grabbed him by the chest. He sat up slowly. His knees cracked. His left shoulder burned the way it always did when rain was coming. He did not speak. He listened. He absorbed every word. Surgery, internal bleeding, no family nearby. She asked for you before anesthesia. The call ended. The room smelled faintly of old coffee and clean laundry. A single photo sat face down on the dresser. He had never thrown it away. He had just stopped looking at it. He swung his legs over the bed and stood, steady despite the weight pressing down on him. He did not curse. He did not hesitate. Silence had been his armor for a long time. His name was Daniel Hale. Most people who passed him on the street would never know what he carried. The scars were hidden under long sleeves. The memories stayed buried behind calm eyes and a slow, careful way of moving. He was built like someone who used to be stronger, someone who had once needed to be, at the hospital entrance. The automatic doors opened without ceremony. The air smelled of disinfectant and late-night exhaustion. A nurse looked up, then down again. It's already overwhelmed by too many emergencies and not enough time. Daniel gave his name. She looked at the screen, then at him again. Her face changed just a little. "You are her ex-husband," she said carefully. He nodded. There was no judgment in his face. No defense. Just acceptance. They told him to wait. He sat in a hard plastic chair under fluorescent lights that hummed softly. A man across the room slept sitting up, arms crossed, chin on his chest. A woman stared at the floor, rocking slightly, counting something only she could see. Daniel folded his hands and waited, as minutes stretched into hours. His mind drifted backward, to a life that felt both distant and painfully close. Before the war, before the pain, before the quiet rage that settled into his bones, he had been someone else. Younger. Lighter. He had laughed easily then. He had believed effort was always rewarded. He had met her on a warm afternoon at a small bookstore. She had been arguing with a shelf that refused to give up the book she wanted. He had reached over, pulled it free, and handed it to her without a word. She smiled like she had been waiting for that moment all day. They built a life slowly. Sunday mornings. Shared coffee? Small arguments that ended in laughter. She used to trace the lines on his hands and ask where each scar came from. When he deployed, she packed his bag twice because she did not trust herself to do it right the first time. He remembered the smell of her shampoo clinging to his uniform when he boarded the plane. The war took things from him that could not be named. Friends, sleep, sense of safety that never fully returned. He came home different, quieter, more careful with his emotions than his words. She tried. She truly did. But love does not always survive what silence hides. He woke up screaming. He flinched at slammed doors. He sat with his back to walls in restaurants. The night their marriage ended, there was no shouting. No blame, just exhaustion. She said she felt alone even when he was right there. He said nothing, because he had no words left that felt honest. When the papers were signed, he walked away believing he had failed one more person who deserved better. Back in the waiting room, the clock moved slowly toward dawn. A doctor finally approached him. Young, tired, serious. "She lost a lot of blood," he said. "We did everything we could. She is stable for now, but complications are possible. We need someone to authorize further treatment if needed. Daniel stood without thinking. He did not ask questions about money or time. He did not ask why he was the one being asked after all this time. He simply said yes. While she slept, machines breathed for her. Tubes ran where strength had failed. Her face looked smaller, fragile in a way he had never seen before. He stood at the doorway and did not step closer. Respect had always mattered to him. Even now, a nurse whispered that she asked for him before surgery, that she seemed calmer when she heard his name. Daniel closed his eyes. Sometimes, the bravest thing a person can do is show up when they are no longer expected. Hours passed. The sun rose. The waiting room filled with more people, more stories, more quiet suffering. A man in a suit complained loudly about delays. A woman argued with a receptionist. Stress spilled into the air like heat. Daniel remained still. At one point, a hospital administrator approached him, explaining policies, asking about insurance, reminding him that he was no longer legally responsible. Daniel listened, then spoke softly. "I am responsible." The administrator hesitated, then nodded. There was something about the way Daniel stood. Straight, steady, unshaken. It reminded people of something they had forgotten. When complications arose again, he was ready. When consent was needed, his hand did not tremble as he signed. A nurse later told another nurse that there was something different about him, that he never raised his voice, that he thanked everyone, that he carried himself like someone who had learned the value of every breath. By evening, she was awake. Her eyes opened slowly, confused, afraid. She saw him standing there. Tears filled her eyes before she could stop them. He did not move closer. He did not speak first. She reached out, fingers weak. Searching the air, he stepped forward then and took her hand carefully, as if it were something fragile and rare. There are moments when words would only make things smaller. This was one of them. Later, when she could speak, her voice was thin. She said she did not know who else to call. That everyone else felt too far away? That when she thought she might not wake up, his name was the one that came. Daniel nodded. He did not remind her of the pain. He did not reopen old wounds. He did not ask for explanations. Some people think strength is loud. They think it demands recognition. But real strength waits quietly until it is needed. Days passed. Recovery was slow. Complications came and went. Through it all, Daniel remained. Nurses began to greet him by name. Doctors spoke to him with respect. Other families noticed the way he held doors, the way he listened, the way he never complained. One night, as she slept, a nurse asked him why he stayed. Daniel thought for a long time before answering. Because leaving is easy. Staying is harder. That sentence stayed with the nurse long after her shift ended, when she was strong enough to sit up. They talked. Not about the past at first. About small things. About books. About weather. About how strange it felt to almost disappear from the world. Eventually, she apologized. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just honestly. Daniel listened. Then he said something simple. We both did the best we could with what we had. Forgiveness does not always mean forgetting. Sometimes it means choosing peace over pain. The day she was discharged, she asked what would happen next. Daniel smiled gently. Next, you heal. He walked her to the exit. Sunlight filled the lobby. Life moved around them, unaware of how close it had come to losing her at the door. She stopped him. She asked if he would stay in her life. Daniel paused. He thought of everything they had been, everything they were not anymore, everything they could never be again. He squeezed her hand once. I am here today, he said. Tomorrow will take care of itself. She nodded, understanding more than words could say. As he walked away, there was no applause. No dramatic farewell. Just a man returning to his quiet life, carrying one less regret than before. Somewhere behind him, A nurse watched him leave and whispered to no one in particular that some heroes never wear uniforms anymore. Weeks later, Daniel returned to his small apartment. The photo on the dresser was still there. This time, he turned it face up. He did not smile. He did not cry. He simply accepted that love changes shape. But it never truly disappears, in a world that often celebrates noise and ego. Daniel's story is a reminder that dignity does not need an audience, that showing up matters, that sometimes the last hope is not the loudest voice, but the quiet one that never left. If this story moved you, share where you are watching from. Tell us what silent strength means to you, and subscribe for more stories that honor the heroes who never asked to be seen.